Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of The Take. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson, of course, and in today's episode, I got Ashton Starnes back on the podcast. Georgia Bulldogs fan.
Go Dogs.
His team got in, but I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been here if they wouldn't have made it in. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love college football, and it's been, what a season it's been, man. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal all around. One of the best seasons I can remember.
And dude, we can't even fathom how good of an ending it's going to be because, look, we got 12-team playoffs here. We were talking about it last time you were on. We were like, how is this going to look? There's been a lot of controversy with the seeding and things like that. Before we get into the matchup, since I did bring up the seeding, what is your take on the seeding with all these conferences champions getting buys, but also some of these conference champions getting buys over teams that are ranked higher than they are?
It's bad because it's screwing teams that deserve to be there in a way. Like, obviously, the 5 seed has a decent path. Like, that's probably the best path in most people's eyes. But that team should be the 3 seed. And then the 6 seed should be the 4 seed and have a bye. And so it hurts those teams in a way. And, you know, like, as good as Boise State is, like, do they really deserve first round bye? Does Arizona State really deserve first round bye? Like, imagine if Boise would have lost another game this year. We talked about this a little bit before, but they could be sitting at like the 13 or 14 seed with a first round bye at the moment. Or Clemson would have got the first round bye because it's the top 4 division champion or conference champions. It's whack and it's got to change because it's not sustainable, you know?
And the timetable, because you know how the committee is in college football in general of just changing things. Like, it took them forever to go from 4 to 12. How long would you think it would take to change what you were just talking about with this current system?
I wish I would have pulled up the number before, but there's a year, I think it's 26. I think it's 26 that they're supposed to talk about changing it again, which would be to 14 or to 16 teams. That'll probably be when that goes away. I definitely would expect it back next year. But
I don't like 16 or 14. Like, keep it at 12. We
like
don't
12.
need every single team in the top 25 to have an opportunity. Like, there's only certain teams that should get that chance. It's special to get to the playoff. It's special to compete for a national championship.
I agree with you, but there are 3 SEC teams that I know would disagree with you. I know South Carolina really wishes they were in right now with how hot they got. Obviously, Alabama, Ole Miss, yeah, they wish they were in. They wish it was 16 teams right now. But I understand what you're saying. I thought 12 teams was too much at first, in my opinion, as well. But now I'm pretty excited for it. So we'll see. It all just about how it plays out.
And first of all, the matchups are pretty spectacular. Okay, the first one we're going to get into, Notre Dame versus Indiana. This hits home with me because I'm from Indiana. Yeah. The Battle of the Hoosier State. These teams haven't played each other at all. Like, it's basically, when you look at this Notre Dame and Indiana matchup, it's in Notre Dame. You know both of these teams can play in the cold. But the last time these teams played was in 1991. So it's been a little bit.
It has been a little bit
since these teams have played. My opinion, you said before coming in off camera that, like, you don't know what to think of this game. To be honest, I do. I think this is a pretty easy, clear-cut answer, and I'm going Notre Dame to beat Indiana. I don't even think it's going to be close because Indiana has shown me that they can't hang with some of the top teams in the country, and their schedule is not prepared them for this moment. They played Ohio State. They looked good on their first drive, and then they got smacked. And in my opinion, Notre Dame is a physical football team just like Ohio State. If you look at this Notre Dame defense, they are 3rd in the country in points allowed at 13.6 points per game. And IU is 2nd in yards per game allowed. But IU has a 106th ranked schedule. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm going Notre Dame. And Riley Leonard running the football, I think that's going to be a huge problem for this Indiana defense.
I agree with you that Notre Dame should win the game. They're easily the more talented team, and they have played very well, except for against Northern Illinois.
It's just nuts. I can't.
But saying it's going to be a blowout is kind of crazy to me. Or it's clear cut, not a blowout. But
and it's at South Bend.
Yeah. Touchdown, Jesus, shout out. But But I don't think it's that clear cut. I think Indiana's a very good team. I think Indiana definitely is a top 12 team this year. Just because they didn't play great against Ohio State, which they actually did play much better. Just opportunities left them and they got blown out. But I mean, Georgia got blown out by Ole Miss this year. That doesn't mean Georgia's not one of the best teams in college football. And then Indiana beat Michigan and Michigan beat Ohio State. So it's kind of like, ooh, you caught them on a bad day, and they actually did come in pretty well. The home field definitely matters, but the Hoosier fans are gonna travel.
They will. It's not that far.
To Ohio State.
It's not that far.
So I mean, I think it's gonna be a very good game, and I think this Indiana team, they're one of the most fun teams in the playoff. Like it is such an exciting team to watch when they're clicking on all cylinders. They're very, very, very hard to beat. I'm starting to convince myself the other way around.
Yeah, it seems like you are. I
haven't seen much from Notre Dame. I mean, do you have it pulled up? What's Notre Dame's good wins this year? Louisville, Georgia Tech?
Yeah. Texas A&M, I think, was a good win opening the season at Texas A&M.
Early, though, Texas A&M's quarterback was not the same as it was at the end of the season. That guy got
Louisville
benched.
was a decent win.
Yes.
You know how I feel about Army and Navy, so I'm not going to put them in there.
Right.
But, like, they were still ranked wins. I know it's not as strong, but at least Notre Dame has ranked wins. Indiana does not. They do not.
Well, how many of those teams are ranked now?
Indiana? No, none of those
Notre
teams.
Dame's wins.
Then I don't think Louisville's ranked. Maybe
No,
Army.
Louisville's not ranked.
I think Army might be the only one then.
AAC champions.
Yeah,
that's a good win.
That's a
good win.
And
they beat the brakes off of Army and Navy, by the way. It was not close.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So,
but you know how I feel about those two games because they're not
be
on the level of like an Ohio State and teams like that.
I think it's going to be a close game. I think Indiana is good and they deserve to be here, but they don't have the talent Notre Dame does. It is a home game for Notre Dame, which does matter. And it's actually the first Notre Dame game on ESPN I don't have the year, but in a really long time because they have the deal with NBC. So it's going to be the first Notre Dame game on ESPN in a minute. So that's pretty cool. I like Notre Dame here, but Indiana, man, fun team. I would not be surprised at all if Indiana comes out with the win. Curtis Rourke's a baller, man.
Yeah, he's impressed me a lot this year, and I had a shout out to Quentin Cannon. I had him on the pod like a couple weeks ago, and he played in the MAC when he was in the MAC at Ohio. Mm-hmm. So he played against him, and he said he was a very good quarterback, and he was saying like they're in good hands. I'm not saying they don't have a good team.
The
like,
defense is feisty.
Jordan
too.
Ellison is a very good running back. Elijah Surratt, he's a very good wide receiver. He can get open, and Indiana's defense is good, but in my opinion, the way Notre Dame has been playing towards the end of the season, I mean, they've been averaging close to 40 points a game for the last couple games of the season, and they've been hot. They haven't lost since that Northern Illinois game, and they've just been looking dominant. Like, it's not like they're in close games. Like, they're mauling teams. Like, they're destroying teams. And the way that Riley Leonard is running the football,
right?
And you compare that with Jeremiah Love, come on. I mean, and it's at Notre Dame. I just don't see a world where it's Notre Dame is going to lose. I just don't. I can't.
Did beat USC last week this season.
And USC was decent for a little bit.
That was a close game.
So like that was honestly a good win too.
A solid team. Yep.
So you're going.
I'm going Notre Dame.
Are you going Notre Dame?
going Notre Dame. But I'm saying there's no world that Indiana wins. I think it's very disrespectful to Indiana.
I definitely think Indiana. And who have they? And they've looked not great against good teams.
They've looked great against good teams.
Ohio State. You think they look good? That's the only team that they play. And Michigan has had a down year.
Well, it depends how good Ohio State is, really, because that'll determine a lot of that. Because Ohio State, I'm not so sure how good they are. So we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll move on to another matchup because we have a lot to unpack here.
We do.
So SMU at Penn State. This one
is fun.
It's the third ever matchup between these two programs.
Wow.
And let's just say this.
I don't remember the matchup.
I don't know if SMU is going to be able to handle the cold weather, but the way they played against Clemson, showing resiliency, coming back, I think they can go into Penn State and win. And Penn State's had a lot of like tough games that I feel like even against Oregon, like, yeah, it was close on paper, but like I feel like they really weren't in that game.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
they were beat the whole game, and they were able to turn it on at the end and had a chance, but they couldn't pull it out. SMU, you say the cold, and I think that's interesting because in the ACC championship, it was very cold in Charlotte.
But we're going up to.
I understand, but it was very cold, and that's what I'm about to say. They did start out very slow. They started sloppy. They looked cold. So I do think that's a very interesting part of that game that I don't think enough people are looking at. But SMU is still a very good, very good
I'm
team.
picking them.
You're picking SMU.
I'm picking
in
SMU.
Penn State, going into Happy Valley.
Yes, absolutely. Kevin Jennings. Okay, he's been absolutely amazing. The way this guy can dissect his own coverage defense is amazing. Like what he's been doing this year, he can be an NFL quarterback at some point. I believe that. Just the throws he's been making have put this SMU team over the top. And people like Paul Feinbaum are going to say they don't have good wins, but I mean, they played Pittsburgh when they were literally ranked 17. And I know they fell off or whatever, but like that was still a hard-nosed win. In Louisville, they played them while they were ranked too. Mm-hmm. And they almost beat BYU, who was, let's not forget, in the playoff for a lot of the rankings until later
BYU?
on. BYU.
Well, they lost to BYU.
But they were in the
right.
They lost to them. That's what I said.
Oh,
they lost to a team that was in the rankings for a long time until they kind of fell off.
Right, but they not really. I mean, if BYU beats Arizona State, and they almost did. If they would have beat Arizona State, they're where Arizona State is right now.
And I think that's a good loss. And they only lost by 3 in that game.
Right.
So
no, it is. And SMU's a wagon.
Yeah. and they've surprised everybody this year. I mean, who would have thought that SMU, out of all these teams, would be in? Like, first year in the ACC, they go in to Charlotte. They put on an absolute show. And they're very well coached. And they have a good defense. I'm going SMU with the upset.
It took a miraculous kick, and it was a very long one for a college kicker. And people see a 58-yarder and go, oh, NFL kickers. These aren't NFL kickers. These are kids, okay? So these kids, a 58-yarder is incredibly impressive in college football. So the fact that he hit I didn't think he was going to hit it. I thought SMU was going to win the game.
The thing is, their strength of schedule, everyone's looking at it. But, like, Penn State, to me, on offense all year, I don't know what they really are yet. Even this deep into the season, like they scored 30+ on Oregon, and then Ohio State, they got held to 13. Like I don't know what to think of Penn State,
right? And
they just haven't been consistent. And SMU has been consistent. The ACC just gets a lot of hate for no reason at all.
Yep.
Like I cannot believe it was even a conversation, regardless of how. Like, okay. So if SMU lost, let's say SMU lost that game by 20 points against Clemson, are they in? Like I think that's the real question everyone wants to know here.
In theory, yes, but in reality, probably not. Like the college football playoff committee was like, we're not going to penalize teams for losing this game. So SMU could have got blown out by 50 and should have been in, but then we really would have had arguments, people mad. So I want to say yes, but maybe no. But there was no, like, in my mind, there was no argument that SMU shouldn't be in because they had a great season, beat good ACC teams, and him saying the ACC being disrespected, that is so real. There were a lot of really decent, let me say great, let me say good, really good teams in the ACC this year. Louisville was a good team. And Pitt. Georgia Tech.
Was very good.
Obviously Clemson, obviously Miami. I mean, and then SMU, doesn't win the conference, I guess, but had the best record in the conference. I feel like that's really getting overshadowed right now in people just arguing for Alabama. So, do we need to make picks?
I already picked SMU. So.
Oh, that's right. I can't pick SMU here. I'm sorry, Mr. Mankman. I'm sorry. Everyone's not going to understand that except for Mank, but I'm sorry, bro, but Penn State is like really good. Again, out-talented. And I feel bad for disrespecting Penn State in our last college football pod. So let me not do that again.
You did.
I think Penn State's the better team. They're more talented. In the cold, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that as the number one reason. Although they played in the cold and SMU started slow and they got it going, Penn State should be able to win this game. But I don't know. It's another toss-up. This bracket is so good.
Bracket's so good. We're going to move on to Texas. Will host Clemson.
Interesting.
Now, we were just talking about Clemson a little bit. Clemson I think they had less than a 10% chance to get in after Miami. It was before Miami lost, I think.
Because Miami.
So
yeah.
like, this is insane. They were completely done, in my opinion, and they somehow found a way to get in this freaking playoff. Like, and then Dabo was getting a bunch of crap for not hitting the transfer portal, and here we are.
Got his team
Clemson is in, and I said I was gonna pick Texas, but I'm gonna switch up.
You're gonna take
I'm gonna
Clemson?
pick Clemson.
This guy's picking all the
I'm
upsets.
gonna pick Clemson to upset Texas, and to me, Texas just that loss to Georgia, I think is just absolutely defeated them, in my opinion. I don't think they're gonna come out with the same confidence. I think Clemson is a very hot team right now. Clemson, I think, getting a win in the ACC championship, that's enough for me. And Cade Klubnik, he's looked way better this year. He's looked way more consistent. And everyone's going to say, Texas's physicality. But the way that Texas has looked recently, I don't know. They just don't seem as confident of a team, in my opinion. So I'm going to go Clemson. And it's a tough pick, but Clemson is a good team. And they're very well coached.
I think what you said is fair enough. I do agree that Texas has not been playing to their standard, but Texas is like when I was watching that Georgia game, it was the first game I've watched in a while where I went, this team is more talented than us. Like Texas is probably the most talented team in the country. They have like incredible speed and incredible athleticism everywhere. They have 2 first-round tackles. I mean, I love that Clemson got it done. Like I'm glad that a old-fashioned team, per se, got the job done. But Texas is the new school, new physical, new. I mean, I disagree with you saying they're defeated and deflated going in. I think they have to prove a point now. And that's where it gets to that, is will they be able to prove that point? And I do. I think they will. I think they will be able to do that and prove that point, and they should make a pretty deep run into this playoff. But it's college football. So Clemson's definitely, like you said, Clemson is hot. South Carolina's a great team. So losing to South Carolina is no disrespect. And then you go into Charlotte, you win a game you have to win, a must-win game, you handle it. That would make me pretty worried if I'm a Texas fan. But, you know.
And they were pretty dominant for majority of the game, too.
Yep, they were ready. Clemson was ready, SMU was not. And it took SMU time to figure that out. But I still think, I mean, Clemson, they just don't have the dogs that Texas does, in my opinion. And Texas should be able to handle it.
I think it'll be a very good game, but I'm gonna go upset on that one. This one, I think there's Tennessee at Ohio State.
This is the one.
This is you're right.
This is the one in the first round.
This is the freaking game right here. Like,
can I stop you real quick? I'm sorry, but everything we've said, every time we've previewed these games, we've been like, this is such a good game. This is a toss-up. And then we go into this Tennessee-Ohio State game, and we go, this is the one. Like, this is the biggest game, which is insane. This bracket is so good, man. It is such a good playoff. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited it's finally
for real.
We're actually here talking about this.
Like
this is a reality check right now. Like, someone needs to pinch me right now because I'm not sure if this is real. Like, is 12 team, like, clearly it's real, but like, this is insane. This matchup right here is, God, it's so hard to pick. Like, the problem is I picked Ohio State to win it all at the beginning of the year, so I would feel like I'm not ride or dying with my pick if I didn't pick them. But I'm going to pick Ohio State because, I mean, it's in Columbus. It's in the team that Ohio State has this year, Will Howard, Quinshon Judkins, Tre'Javion Henderson, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and Emeka. Like, are you
Carnell
kidding
Tate's
me?
Really good.
Like, dude, this is a stacked offense.
It's very good.
You got Chip Kelly in there. And in my opinion, that game against Michigan, I just think that was an off day. Like, I just don't think they were playing well, and they thought that they were going to have an easy win against Michigan. I genuinely thought they were like, oh, we're at home. You know, Michigan's not as good as they normally are. They're going to be a walk. They're going to be a step over, and we're going to get them. But I think that was a fluke in my opinion.
I think that too, and it was a rivalry game, like one of the biggest rivalry games where anything can happen.
I mean, you saw the fight at the end. That was nuts. Like police were pepper spraying players. Like I've never seen anything like that. Period.
How about all the fights this weekend, man? There were probably 5 fights during rivalry week, man. It was incredible.
It was insane.
It was
dude.
awesome to watch. But I'm sorry, but I don't mean to get off topic. That was something else. So. Oh, I did want to. I know something I want to say. So Kirk Herbstreit made a really good point on the college football playoff reveal show, and he said that Ohio State having a home game might be a disadvantage for the team and the players, especially for Coach Day, because he was saying that he wouldn't be surprised if they went out there and they were getting booed because of the Michigan game. And I think that's a really good point because he's probably right. Like I have not seen one positive thing about Ryan Day since they lost to Michigan. And I hate to say that's a season killer, but in my mind, it definitely could be. That loss to Michigan, you could say it's a fluke, and it probably was. But that momentum, that negative momentum, like you were saying about Texas, I think that's what's going on with Ohio State unless they prove otherwise. They're going to have to go out there and play their best ball. This has to be their best game of the year. Easily, because when they've had to show out on big time performances, besides Indiana and you know, against Oregon and against Michigan, they didn't do it. And Tennessee's really good. They've been there. They've played a lot of close games this year. They don't have any super impressive wins, but I don't know. It's going to be where the momentum goes.
Doesn't look as good, but at the time when they beat them.
Well, I mean, Alabama was
decent win.
First team out of the playoffs. That's basically a playoff team they beat, but that would have been the only playoff game they won. They just had a lot of really close games. Like they started the season by blowing everybody out, and then every game was 7 or 10 or 3 points, but it doesn't matter. Winning is all that matters. So I got Tennessee. I love the idea of Tennessee going into the shoe, taking Don, the Ohio State Buckeyes, dude. And I don't think I would have picked this if they wouldn't have lost to Michigan. I know that's such a kind of silly thing to say, but because they probably would have. Well, I guess they wouldn't have had a bye. This matchup wouldn't have happened in the first round if they would have beat Michigan. But with that loss, and because of what that loss means, because it's Michigan, they might be really pissed off. But that is a real gut punch, and I don't know how you overcome that. Tennessee's great. Dylan Sampson is a top 5 running back in college football. Nico's been up and down all year.
But he's shown that he's the future.
He's performed good when he needed to. He's still young. So, again, if Tennessee loses, I think it will be because of him. Their defense is great. Their offensive line is great. Like, again, weather's going to be a big deal. How cold it is that day in Columbus is really going to change how this game goes. Imagine it's snowing. That's why I'm going Ohio State. I think they could figure it out. Now, I hear you with the Ryan Day stuff. I definitely, that noise is louder than it really should be, in my opinion, because... But 3 straight losses to Michigan.
But the pressure... Yeah, that's crazy. That's
to your biggest rival.
That's wild. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And a lot of it is because of the pressure to win at Ohio State is just such... It's at an all-time high level, and especially this year, because they did get a lot of guys in the portal, and they do have a lot of good players on offense, and they do have a good defense. I mean, they're literally the number 1 team in points allowed on defense this year. So they are a good football team all around on both sides of the ball. Like, they can do it, but we'll see. We're gonna move on because we have too much to get into.
One more thing about this,
that is an insane matchup.
One more thing, real quick. Ohio State, Will Howard has to step up. I have not seen it from Will Howard this year that makes me think
he's got to be more alert of what's going on in certain game situations.
You mentioned all those weapons. Where's his crazy passing game? He doesn't have it, and I definitely don't think he's going to have it against the Tennessee defense. Just saying. That's going to be your X factor. Is going to be Will Howard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, because he has to be able to manage the game, which in some of their tough losses, he hasn't.
No.
Especially against Oregon when he
folded
slid
at the biggest moment.
Yeah, that one was not good at all. But they almost beat Oregon. So, if it wasn't for those mistakes, they probably could only have 1 loss right now.
For sure.
So, we'll move on. So, you've got Boise State and Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. I've got Boise State and SMU. So,
both those are such fun games.
First, Boise State to me I think they're good. I think they are. Ginty has had a historic season. He's had one of the greatest seasons I've ever seen from a running back in college football history. Like, if it wasn't for Travis Hunter, he would definitely be the Heisman Trophy winner. 100%. It wouldn't even be close. But since Travis Hunter is so loved in the media and he's doing things on both sides of the ball, he's going to get it. And I think he should.
You said it right there.
I think
loved by the media.
Yeah, I mean, he's ridiculous. Colorado. He's at Colorado. You know, he's got the backup by Dion. But Ginty, to me, he's 131 yards away from Barry Sanders' all-time rushing record.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And I think SMU is going to win. I do. I think they're going to win this game. I think Boise State, they just haven't. They've had a similar road to SMU, in my opinion. They did lose to Oregon by 3, which I will give them the benefit of the doubt.
Best loss in college football.
At that point, Oregon didn't have it figured out yet. I mean, they almost lost. They only beat Idaho State. They barely beat Idaho State. So, like, they were not figured out. They were not a polished product yet. I feel like if Oregon played Boise State now, it'd be a completely different game. So, in my opinion, I think SMU has the better quarterback. And I think Kevin Jennings will be the X factor in that game for them to win.
Maddox is pretty good down at Boise State. He actually is pretty good. Okay, so this is where it gets
and you got Penn State
tricky.
In there.
Yeah, because I'm not talking about SMU anymore. But I do want to say I love that game. SMU and Boise. That should be a first round game though. Boise shouldn't. Like I said, I love Boise, and you're about to see that. But Boise, SMU in the first round of the playoffs. Sign me up every day of the week. Like, that'd be such a fun game. But okay, so Boise, Penn State. In Arizona, this is where it gets interesting. So, I don't know about y'all, but when I was a kid, Boise State made the Fiesta Bowl 2 times, maybe 3, maybe only 1. But I know they played Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. That was one of the most fun games ever. If you have not watched it, go watch the highlight. 2008, Adrian Peterson was at Oklahoma. Such a fun game.
Oh, man.
Such a fun game. The Statue of Liberty play. So in my mind, Boise like kind of owns that stadium. I know that's not accurate at all, but that's just how my mind works. So I love the idea of Boise playing in Arizona again. I think they have to prove themselves because all year they've kind of been this team. It's like, oh yeah, you know, Ashton Ginty, and then what else? They suck. Like, everyone looks at them that way. And I don't think they should be looked at that way because they had the Oregon game kind of in hand. They kind of gave it away at the end. And I imagine they win that game though. Imagine how much
the bye they have then.
Imagine how much different everyone looks at Boise State if they beat Oregon. And obviously ifs and buts or whatever. But I'm just saying they were so close to doing it. And imagine how you would look at them if they would have won that game compared to how you look at them now. So I love Boise State. I think they have weapons. They have to play up. Like, they're going to be out-talented severely against Penn State.
And the problem is Penn State, in that matchup, both of these teams, for SMU and Penn State, for our sakes, you're going to have to put like 7 in the box for Ginty.
Everyone does.
You have to. So that's going to really change any defensive game plan, which is nuts. But I feel like that is, if you can stop Ginty, what else is Boise State? What else can they do?
Well, they have a good passing game. You know, most of their touchdowns the past couple weeks.
But you know the run game opens up the passing game.
Yes, but if they're putting... Okay. San Jose State... No. San Diego State. No, San Diego State. So San Diego State played Boise. This is important. Had 8 guys in the box for 50% of the game. And Ashton Ginty had 30 yards rushing at halftime. But the score was 31 to like 7 or maybe 14. My point is that, sure, you can load the box and you can shut down Ashton Ginty. But they can answer it. And I think Boise... I like the idea of Boise beating Penn State. I really do. I think they come out and they prove themselves in that game. I really do. And I would say the same thing about if they were playing SMU. I think they prove themselves because everyone doubts them. Everyone doubts them. Even I feel like if Arizona State played Boise State, Arizona State would be favored. And Boise's been there all year. They've been there, done that all year. I don't think they deserve this disrespect. And I think they're going to prove it. But... would I be surprised if Penn State beat them by 20 or 30? Not really, but I don't think it'll happen. I really don't. I think Ginty gets it done, even with put 8 guys in the box. Ginty gets it done. 150 yards rushing, minimum that game, win or loss.
Okay. Fair enough.
I love that Boise State
Next one's
team.
the Peach Bowl. And we've got Arizona State, the bye for this one. Now I've got Clemson in there. You got Texas. So this matchup, it's very strange. It's very strange to see Arizona State have a bye, first of all. Like, out of all the teams that we've talked about today, there's so many teams that never in a million years, IU, Arizona State, those are two teams right there that I never saw being in the playoff. Never. Now, Boise State always was talked about because they were always one of those mid-majors teams that like people were saying they should be in.
They were always the favorite as the group of five
Right.
team
So
to
like
make it,
I feel like they were a little bit not surprised to me to see them in there.
Not too much, no.
Arizona State, they won the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 has a lot of question marks going forward, but that's a different conversation. But Clemson and Arizona State for me, that's so hard. But
that's a fun game.
that's a
really fun
That's
game.
a hard pick. It genuinely is. But I'm going to go with the Sun Devils, Arizona State. I think they're going to beat Clemson. And let's just say this. Cam Scatterbo, that's how you pronounce
Scatterbo
it?
is a
Scatterbo,
beast.
he is a freaking beast. He's 5th in the country in rushing. He's got over 1,500 yards. He is a freaking tank. This guy literally mows people over. Like, he's one of the best running backs in college football.
And he's fast.
And Sam Levet is a very good quarterback. So I think Arizona State, they've been in a lot of really good games this year. And from what I've watched, they can put points up on the board. And I just think Arizona State against Clemson, I think that's a very friendly matchup for Arizona State.
That's a really fun game.
That's a great game. But I'm putting Arizona State advancing, and they're going to be holding the Peaches up. Okay? They're going to be holding the Peaches, you know.
Okay. The thought of Arizona State playing in Atlanta really kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, that just feels weird to me, but I guess it's going to happen. So I got to get ready for it. I got to ask you a question real quick before I give any answer. Texas and Arizona State in Atlanta, who wins that in your mind? Because you said Clemson, so I just want to know. Right? So hold up. So that's what, he doesn't even need to answer that. That's what gets me, is that you pick Clemson to win, and you're like, then you pick Arizona State, but then now it's Texas, and you're like, well, and I get it, it's matchups, and that does, and as much as I love Arizona State, and I would have them going further if they wouldn't have got the bye. Like, I probably would have had them
Because if
getting out of the
Texas
first
wins
round,
a game, to answer your question, in the playoff, my opinion, they're back to, in my eyes, to where I think they could be.
Right.
Which is competing for national championship. But since I'm saying they lost to y'all in the SEC title game in a very heartbreaking fashion and to a backup quarterback,
Right.
that is why I think the momentum we've been talking
There you
about,
go.
I just think that is a killer.
Talk about nightmares, dude. Texas returning to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where they just lost a month before to the Georgia Bulldogs. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, dude.
They're on their way to it right now if they beat Clemson.
You know what? Since it's in Atlanta and they just lost in that stadium for your pick, give me Arizona State regardless of who they play. Regardless of who they play. Give me Arizona State regardless. Regardless of who they play.
I'm going with Texas.
Give me the Devils, dude. They're gonna shock the world.
I really like this Arizona State team, but they're not Texas's level. They're just not. Like, and I know everything I just said about Boise State is honestly similar for Arizona State. If they play like they did against Iowa State, they definitely could beat Texas easily. They could beat anybody. But I don't know how much we can assume that's gonna keep
the
happening
fork
like
is
that.
gonna go boom. It's gonna pierce the soul of Texas and Clemson. You've got a tiger and a longhorn, okay, against a fork. Like, hypothetically speaking, not actually on the field, but like that is incredible right there. And I just love Arizona State. Like, they've really surprised me this year, and they're a team that they had their ups and downs, and they won a game that there was a must win against BYU to even have this opportunity. And by the way, that is the craziest thing I've seen in college football all year. They got all the people on the field, and then they had to say, hey, get off. But okay, back to your Texas and Arizona State. So you're going Texas to win. Is that what I'm hearing
I don't know.
right
You're
now?
starting to convince me, man. I'm starting to imagine a little devil out there fighting Bevo. Yeah, no, Texas is better.
Bevo even going to be at the game?
No, they wouldn't let him come to the SEC championship game. I assume he's not going to be at the Peach Bowl.
What was the reason for that, actually?
No sideline space. The
Oh, he's
sidelines
too
aren't as
big?
big. Yeah, they had him at the Sugar Bowl a couple years ago, but I guess the sidelines, they couldn't fit him in for that. I don't know, but that's what I read. But yeah, I mean, Texas, again, like I said, they got Clemson. They're by far the more physical team, physical, athletic, gifted, talented, whatever words you want to use. I love this Arizona State team, though, and it's so hard. Like, this is so hard. I'm making these picks as we go, by the way. Like, I didn't plan anything, so I'm
some of my picks I had planned, but some of them I didn't. Some of them I changed on the spot.
So it's so hard. Like, my heart wants me to pick Arizona State, but my mind is like, dude, like,
No way,
Texas
dude.
isn't going to lose to Arizona
So you're going,
State.
who are you going?
Texas.
Okay, all right. We got Texas, and I've got Arizona State. Okay, so let's go to Oregon.
You know what?
Oregon.
You know what, dude? Give me Arizona State,
Yeah!
dude. I changed my mind. I've come around, dude. You know what?
Let's go.
Cam Scotabo is one of the best running backs, if not the best.
Yes.
Him and Ashton Ginty are...
Dude,
Okay,
let's
so
go. I just sold this man on Arizona
Give me
State.
horns down, dude. I don't like Texas anymore, dude.
Dude, forks up, dude. Horns down. That's what we're talking about, dude. Let's go. Arizona State. Wow. We actually agreed.
I don't know how realistic that pick was.
We actually
but
agreed that. That's fantastic. I'm going to end on a high note with that. And we're going to the Oregon Ducks, okay? The number one seed. They're undefeated. They won the Big Ten in their first year in the Big Ten. And I've got them against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. You've got them facing off against Tennessee. Okay, we'll start with your pick first.
What's fun
Oregon
matchups?
versus Tennessee. Who's your pick for that one?
You're killing me with the Oregon.
Oregon. I just think it's fun to say it that way.
It is
Oregon.
funny. It's making
I
me
would
laugh.
say Oregon, but like, what's the fun in that? Like,
Okay, let me lock in here. Okay.
is it because I'm saying Oregon?
Yes. Another great matchup. But this one I feel like is kind of easy. Like, I don't think Tennessee matches up as well. A lot of this is matchups in my mind. Like, I'm not just thinking about which team's better. Like, that's such a silly way to look at football. Like, if you did that, there'd be no point in doing this. We could just pick the two most talented teams and move on. But Tennessee, I don't think they match up very well with Oregon's vertical threat offense, which they unloaded against Penn State. Yeah, I don't like that matchup very much for Tennessee. I got to go with Oregon. I don't really got much else to say except for I don't think Tennessee matches up well with them. It's a long travel, too, from Tennessee to Pasadena, California, dude. It's much closer for Oregon.
Give me the Ducks against Ohio State.
That one's fun.
Give me the Ducks against Ohio State. What you said about Ryan Day has completely changed my perspective on Ohio State. If they can escape Tennessee, Oregon is well rested. They're undefeated. They've been picking it up. Dillon Gabriel, he hasn't had the season that everyone anticipated him having. He was the Heisman favorite going in, and he was my Heisman pick.
Oh.
But those attributes, I've seen Dillon Gabriel play in person. And what he can do is just unbelievable. In this Oregon offense, high tempo, Dan Lanning and this head coaching staff, I think they're going to get it done. Jordan James is a great running back. And Tez Johnson, I almost said Des Bryant. Tez Johnson, dude, this guy is a vertical monster. Put him on a post, put him on a fade route. Gabriel will deliver an absolute dot. I really don't think Ohio State is going to be able to handle what Oregon has been doing the last couple games of the season. So I'm going to change my pick. I actually originally picked Ohio State. So that my championship pick at the beginning of the year goes down the toilet right here. But I'm going Oregon. Oregon to win that game. Give me Oregon. Give me the Ducks. Give me the Ducks. Give me the Ducks, okay? And they already beat Ohio State once.
I do got something to say here. You said something about the break and they're well rested, and I started thinking, and I'm like, I didn't really think too much about this before, but the buys, it's almost 3 weeks off. That might hurt some teams more than it helps certain teams. Might lose that fire that specifically Arizona State and Boise have in them right now. That's very interesting. This is going to be very interesting. That's just a thought that came to me, and I thought it needed to be said because I don't think every team is going to be well rested and ready. Teams are going to come out very rusty. at least some of them, and we don't know who right now. There's no way they all come out and they're better than they were. Like, some teams are riding momentum.
Well, I mean,
especially
every team
Arizona.
is going in like banged up to some degree. I mean, they played a 12, 11 game season.
For
so
sure.
Like it's a long road.
For sure. That's something that's going to be so exciting, though, for this bracket is that a Clemson could get hot, beat Texas, beat Oregon, just ride this momentum that they're on, or they wouldn't be Oregon, it'd be Arizona State, but beat Arizona, like they could ride this momentum. That's going to be so fun to watch. Like, that's something we didn't have before this year. Everyone had long buys, and then, wow, I'm so excited.
I know, dude.
I'm so excited.
You're going to get more excited because we're getting into your team here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bark for you.
How's that?
So we both have Georgia and Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. You picked Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure.
Right, yes, sir.
So that game, I mean, I think the Dogs, man. I mean, Carson Beck, we don't know what his status is going to be. It's looking like he's not going to play.
I would say he's probably not going to play.
So, like, I don't think that affects Georgia, in my opinion. The way Gunnar Stockton looked against Texas, like, he looked better than Carson Beck, if you compare the halves in that Texas game.
Well, if you look at his stats, he doesn't.
No, he threw for didn't even throw for 100 yards. So like,
neither did Carson Beck.
Yeah,
but he threw a pick. He threw a pick and Beck didn't. But it doesn't matter. If you watch the game, it was clearly the Georgia whole team was way more energized once Gunnar Stockton got out there, man.
Which is crazy because you would think your team would be backing up Carson Beck a little bit more.
Right. I think they just didn't want to look defeated. They didn't want to lose they didn't have any momentum. They wanted to build momentum, which they did. So go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. This is your Dogs, man. Because I'm sitting here picking your Dogs. Well, in this game to beat Notre Dame.
Right.
Because you guys have had a freaking gauntlet schedule. I mean, you guys have had the most... You guys, out of most of the top teams that are in the playoff, you guys have played the best competition. In my opinion, the win, and then you guys beat the brakes out of Clemson. That win looks great now. You beat Texas twice, and one of them was in Austin.
Yes.
So and you beat Tennessee.
I watched that game here. I was here when I watched that game.
And Kirby Smart, when you just get him there, and you guys have a bye, you guys are comfortable in this position. This is what you guys are made for, being one of the best teams in the country, having these expectations. I think Georgia's going to live up to it. And their defense has been just amazing this year as well.
In theory, if this was any other year, like the past 3, I'd be super confident. I'd be over here barking, standing on the table for the Dogs. We have not been that same team this year. There's been so much... And it's not just we obviously had a harder schedule this year than we have in previous years, but we didn't look great in our wins and our losses. We looked terrible for most of them. The Alabama game, we looked good at the end, but the Ole Miss game, I don't know how many people watched it, but it was murder. It was murder. The Dogs never played good. First drive maybe, and then it was it. It was a lot like the Indiana-Ohio State game. So that really concerns me. But like you said, I believe Kirby Smart's the best. I believe Kirby Smart's the best coach in college football. I believe he can take care of business. He's one of the best at making adjustments. I always have faith that Georgia's going to win in the second half, no matter what the score is, because he can make those adjustments. Notre Dame, I have a fun fact about this. So last week, Georgia played Notre Dame in the ACC SEC Challenge, right, for college basketball. And I saw a thing on Twitter that said Notre Dame is 0-6 against Georgia in basketball and football since 2015. I know we're not talking basketball. 3 of those wins are in football. We had or 2 of them.
No, I have it in front. Georgia's 2-0 against Notre Dame.
So we've been 4 times.
You guys played them in 2017 in South Bend and then 2019 in Athens.
I remember both those games. Dude, oh my God.
Those Notre Dame teams
Terry
were
Godwin
good.
Made a phenomenal catch in that one game. You don't have to pull up the picture of that. Yeah, so... I mean, you got that. Where's this game at? It's the Sugar Bowl. Never mind.
I know it's in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in Georgia here. I'm fairly confident. Obviously, there is no uber confident like we were last year when we should have made the playoffs. But that's the good thing about college football this year is that there is no great team. Like as good as Oregon is, and they are undefeated, and they are very good.
They've had a lot of question marks.
They have question marks, and it's not like previous years where last year I thought Georgia and Michigan were far and away the best teams. Georgia the year before that, like it's usually, and then Alabama for years before that, LSU that one year. There's always these dominant teams in college football, and this year, any of these 12 teams can win the championship. There is a realistic possibility that any of these teams can win.
Yeah,
and that's what makes it fun.
Do you think like, because I know the 4-team playoff, I feel like there was so much pressure to like not lose. Like, do you think taking that pressure away has created like some of these teams maybe not have the better records as they should because one, their schedules are tough, and also they kind of know like if they just can stay alive and be one of those top teams with maybe 2 losses that they can still get in? I mean, because I feel like there's less pressure to be perfect.
It depends who you are. Like if you're Georgia or Alabama, if you're one of the top teams in college football, then yes, you have way less pressure to win every game. But that's no excuse. Like you shouldn't lose it. Look at Oregon. They didn't lose any games. It's also like
mid-majors. They're expected to win every game now if they even want to have a shot.
Right. Well, like Boise State, like it was okay to lose to Oregon, and they probably would have been in if they would have lost to a UNLV or Washington State. But they didn't think that way. There was no way they had that mindset. Right. They had to think that they had to win every game but Oregon, and even then, they probably thought at the time they had to win that game. So yes and no. But I don't think that's the reason why teams are losing so much. I think the realignment is why teams have so many more losses this year as opposed to normal years. It's because Georgia has to play 8 SEC teams now. Ohio State has to play 8 or maybe 9 Big Ten teams. A lot. It's way different, and there's no divisions. So that made the championship games way better this weekend, was the fact there was no divisions. No Iowa sneaking their way into the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, that was annoying because we all knew they were outmatched. But yeah, the divisions have definitely made it better. But so I'm assuming we're both going dogs on that one.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
one thing real quick. I realized that now I picked all 4 teams with the bye to make the championship or the Final Four. That will not happen. I just want everyone to know right now my picks are probably wrong. But I think that's very interesting that I picked 4 teams with the bye. I picked the top 4 teams. So in my mind, I guess the bracket is the right way because the teams I gave the bye to made it to the end. So it's fun.
So let's recap who we have left because I feel like we don't want you guys to lose track.
It's got to be confusing at this point.
At this point, I've got Oregon. I've got Arizona State facing off in the semifinals.
Me too.
And then I've got Georgia. And who was the other team?
The Penn State. No, SMU, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you had SMU over Penn State. We did that one first in this round.
Yep. I got SMU and Georgia. Okay, that's the only matchup that didn't change.
That's the only game we have different.
Yeah, so I've got Oregon, Arizona State.
We both have that.
Okay, so let's get into that one.
Yes.
Because that game, I mean, it's an old Pac-12 opponent.
Do we know where that game would be?
We do have that same game.
Yes.
And going back to the Pac-12 roots.
Right, that's what I was
This is going to mean something.
That used to be a fun game back in the day. A late night, Friday night, past midnight, Oregon, Arizona State.
Yes.
Jaden Daniels and Brandon Ayuk out there bombing it down the field.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I picked Arizona State, honestly.
I'm going to go Oregon in that one, though.
I mean,
I have to. I mean, Arizona State's, little mini run they've had is going to end to the... But yeah, it's gonna be over for them. Yeah.
It's funny because at least my 2 matchups are teams that are overachieving with a great run game, and 2 perennial superstar teams, like the 2 teams we expected to be here, right? Georgia and Oregon. And so Georgia, both of them going up against phenomenal running backs and teams overachieving. I would hate to pick the Oregon and Georgia. Like, I'm sorry to skip ahead, but that's kind of where I see it. Like, it seems super it was unrealistic to pick Arizona State over Texas, but I don't see a world where, I guess I could see Arizona State beating Oregon,
but that game, I'm picking Oregon, go to the national championship. I think that's what you picked as well.
Yeah, I like Oregon here, but I expect it to be a great game. Great Pac-12
I think it could be
rivalry.
I think it could be remind me of the Pac-12 where it's 41 to 30 or something like that. I think I could see it being a shootout.
I think I think this game's going to depend on how Scatterbo gets going. If he can get going, which he should, it doesn't really matter how good that D-line is in front of him.
Jordan James, dude. That dude.
I think that's going to be your X factor of the game. And yeah, he is.
He's different. The next semifinal, I got Georgia SMU facing off. And who's you got? You got Georgia and
Penn State?
Penn State?
No, Boise State. I picked Boise State.
No, you got Georgia and Boise.
Yeah, I picked all the 4 bye teams.
Woo!
I like that game. I love that game.
Oh, shoot. Genty versus the Dogs, man.
I think he'd go off. This Georgia defense isn't like previous Georgia defenses. It'd be a scary one, but
I'm worried for you if that happens.
is this guy gonna be okay?
I'm worried for you if that happens.
I'm not.
But I'm going the Dogs. They're gonna eat the Mustangs. That's what's gonna happen.
All this time you had SMU on this crazy run, and then they meet the Dogs, and that's it.
Yeah, they meet the Dogs. That's it. Woo! That's it. Okay. I can't believe
You gotta work on your
A year
barking.
ago, I'm not gonna do that. Actually, because a year ago, you know what the Dogs did to me,
63 to.
Can we not talk about that? Can we not? Yo, what's your
63 to
pick?
3.
What's your pick? Boise State or Georgia?
I got Georgia over Florida State. I don't think.
Why don't you pick Boise State, man? Pick against your team.
Yeah, I picked Boise State and Arizona State in the national championship. What's fun is that's realistic. It's really possible. Both those teams are very similar, Boise State and Arizona State. But I'm not picking Boise over over Georgia, dude. Georgia shouldn't have the questions they do. It's actually kind of surprising they do to me.
Well, you know why.
I think it's not all Carson Beck, if that's what you're saying, dude. It's really not.
Defense has he been good this year, though?
No, but that's not all the problems. All the problems didn't magically go away.
Problems go. The
problems
tree
did not go away when Gunnar Stockton came in.
It trickles down.
All the problems did not go away once Gunnar Stockton came in. They didn't. It's the same team. The running game is much better because we actually have a running quarterback who could actually move. So, hey, we don't know where we're going to put the ball. It could be a read option. That was fun, actually, watching that Georgia offense. But especially if it's Stockton, it is kind of hard to make a run like this. I think I would feel better with Beck because at least Beck might throw the game away for sure, but at least, he's been there. That was Gunnar Stockton's first game. He has never started a game for Georgia. I feel like there's a lot of question marks about that. And I didn't bring this up when I had him beaten Penn State. But I got to go with Georgia. But I think Genty again. I think Genty would eat up this Dogs defense. I really do. But Jalen Walker's
it's a
beast.
possibility.
Walker's a beast linebacker, man. He's the X factor. Give me the Dogs, man. Give me the Dogs all the time, dude. Anything but ain't nothing but the Dogs. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So you've got Georgia and Oregon.
And you have?
I have the same.
Georgia and Oregon.
Okay.
How about cookie cutter, huh? We picked
that?
the number 1 and the number 2 teams to make the championship. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that Georgia would be in this position? They won the SEC championship. People were saying maybe they lose. There's a lot of conversation that they may not be able to be in the playoff. I thought it was ridiculous that was even a discussion.
I think that 8 overtime game against Georgia Tech showed a lot for Georgia. I think they learned a lot that game. They got a lot better that game. It was fun, man. That was such a fun game to watch. But I think that made them better. That made them, if they would have blown out Georgia Tech, I don't know if they beat Texas. They're a resilient team that was able to almost overcame a huge deficit against Alabama, overcame a huge deficit against Georgia Tech, and overcame their starter being out in the second half and beat Texas in the SEC championship game, a game where they have not been historically very good recently. I love this Georgia team, and I have no reason to think they won't win the national championship this year.
I'm going the wah, wah, wah.
No, he's not. I knew that was going to happen.
The Ducks. The Oregon Ducks.
Fun.
Oh, my God. Hold on. The national championships in Atlanta. No, screw that. I'm changing it. The Dogs. Give me the Dogs, dude. They are going to win the national championship. I'm sorry. I just glazed the crud out of the Ducks, but I'm going to sit that aside because I'm a smart man here. In Atlanta, you got to be kidding me. That stadium is going to be filled with red. There's going to be no green showing up there. There's going to be no green. I'm telling you, that Georgia Bulldog fan base is going to pack the stadium, dude. There's no way Georgia loses that game in Atlanta. There is no freaking way. Hold on. I didn't even know that. That changed my whole perspective.
Yes.
Give me the Dogs,
It
dude.
is in Atlanta.
Whatever I just
Well, I
argued,
appreciate
throw
that.
that to the freaking
Well,
garbage.
don't
The trash
aside.
can
Everything
right
he
there,
said
dude.
about Oregon is true.
Oregon is a good team,
Very,
but the
very good.
Dogs in Atlanta? Come on. That's home territory.
This just became a Georgia glazing session, dude.
I'm just saying. I literally just looked. I was
I
figuring
know.
out where the game
I knew
was.
it was in Atlanta. I might go. That'd be crazy. Imagine I go. I don't think that's as big as an advantage as you think it is, though. Obviously, you're right. The home crowd is going to
Yes.
be all Georgia. And
Yes.
not all, but probably 80%, right? But Georgia is 7-5 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium since it opened. That's not as good as you would want it to be. But
No.
what a story that would be, huh? Georgia
Yes.
wins national championship in Atlanta. That'd be awesome. We're going to go with that. I was going to go with it when I walked in here. There was no way I was ever going to pick anything else. But it's very interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, after what I
Yes.
saw against Texas, there was no way I was going to pick anything else. Last week when you texted me, if Georgia would have lost to Texas, I may have picked someone else, like legit. But I saw a resilient team against Texas, and I think that's what's going to win a national championship. Third in 4 years.
Put the rings on the
Oh,
finger.
yeah, my bad.
Put
Hold
the
on.
ring on the finger right now. Put the ring on the finger before we end this. Chant, crown it, book it. That's what they're going to get right here. You see that? That's what they're going to get right here. Georgia Bulldogs, dude. That's what we're talking about.
People are going to hate this podcast. This past 5 minutes, everyone's going to hate
Dude,
it.
everyone's going to hate
Unless
our
you're a
picks.
fan of the Dogs, dude, because it's all about the Dogs. It ain't about nothing but the Dogs. Always has been, always will be, all about the Dogs, baby.
And on that note, it's all about the Dogs. And we're going to end it right there on the high note. Ashton Starnes, Georgia Bulldog fan. He's holding the ring up right there. I appreciate you hopping on the pod. This has been an absolute pleasure having you on once again.
No problem. I always love to talk about college football, man. And I know with stuff going on in the future, we're going to have to keep doing this. We're going to have to keep doing this with college football, man. I
Yes.
love it. I love it so much.
Yes, we have to keep doing it. There's a lot more news that we could talk about in college football, but we're going to save it for a future episode. This is Ashton Starnes. Follow this man on Instagram. I'm going to put it in the link. And we'll see. He's starting a Cardinals podcast. We'll see if that surfaces up. But I'm, of course, your
Not
host,
after this
Jackson
week.
Burleson. You guys have been watching another episode of The Take. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment who you think your national championship pick is and what you think of our picks. But we will see you in next week's episode. Peace out.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Broadway paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my